Let us continue with the defer. Here you can see initially a graph of an example application. We have the app, that's the app component, that's the source of everything. We have a component navigation that is part of the app. And we have a component and a separate module for the lazy component, and with the lazy component also, for example, list items, which means a list item component. So I hope you mainly understand how modules work in Angular. I will quickly go over it, but it will really not be that much deep into how all module stuff works. Yeah, because that's the first part. We want to look into the how we lazy load a module in the old way. Okay, what's a module? A module is part of kind of a bundle that combines multiple components, can import other modules. We will also take a deeper look into it when we go to the standalone components, if you're not understanding it directly. And yeah, lastly, kind of providing service instances. So let us quickly take a look how we lazy load modules with the router. The router kind of is relatively simple to do. We're creating a new route that is named here lazy route. That also contains a load children function that explain Angular that it should then import a module and loading them into the Angular application. And that's all. Angular then will make separate of the main bundle a lazy module bundle and will load that if the user visit the lazy route. Important for that is that the lazy module containing a start route, because otherwise it will not work. Because it's a module, it's not a component, which means the module has to explain Angular what it then should be rendered if the user visit that route. Then we take a look onto how we earlier lazy loaded a module in code. So here we have a lazy module, same as the by route way, and that contains a function that is named getComponent, which then provides the component that should be rendered if the module get loaded. So now we come to the more complex part. You don't have to understand it because it's only be that this course is complete. But yeah, as I said, Angular 17 have a new way that is much more easier. But we will quickly take a look on it. So it looks very complex. All what it does is that it is a component, and this component have a template, a HTML template, have a view child. Here in the example, the component placeholder, which reads the view container ref. And yeah, it refers to this ng template that is inside of the app component ts template in that example. And yeah, we have this load form function. And what it does is that it await imports the lazy module that we're creating on the top and creates a ng module ref. That two lines of code telling Angular that it should make this lazy module a separate bundle in the build process. And as I said, this refers to the component placeholder, where the component that we now want to render, the lazy component, and yeah, what it then doing is that in the last part it have this lazy component that calls that get component function that you can see on the top on the lazy module TS, then clearing, like deleting everything from the component placeholder, and then creating the component and inserts it into that placeholder. And that's the whole trick. That renders the component as it is in that place where this ng template is placed. As I said, it's relatively complex, but that's the way before Angular 17 to render a component. Yeah, the code way. Yeah, that's the reference, as I said. Ready to learn Angular 19, 20, and 21. This course covers everything new in these latest versions. From hydration, event replay, resource API, signal forms, we cover it all. You will get a complete playground app showcasing all features. Plus, we will build a weather app from scratch to implement everything hands-on. Full source code for both projects included. Check the link in the description. So, now we look on the second way that is only be possible with standalone components. As I said, it's not completely new in Angular 17. That's the reason why I want to show also how it works for standalone components, because it's a little bit different. You can see on the left side I also changed that standalone component is now not surrounded by this lazy module, because a standalone component is nothing else than a module in itself. Kind of. It's not completely the same. We will go later over it, but it's very similar than a module. So very similar, as I said, for the routing way. We have the path lazy load, lazy road, and we have the import of the component in that time. And that's it. It then make a module out of it. And this, other than before, we now say load component. The other route said load children's, because we're not importing now a module that has to contain a route. Now we're telling the router that it is a component in itself. Now the standalone component way by code. And as you can see, it is that much more easier, because you don't have to make this function that returns the component. You only has to create a component on a template, and that's it. But what's now the difference to defer? Or how is the new way to lazy load components? First of all, as you can see on the left side, you need a standalone component that this can work. So this is the kind of template to doing it. You have this add defer. Then in the brackets, you can now define a trigger when this component should be rendered, or when the module or the standalone component get lazy loaded into the browser of the user. We have some other stuff like add loading, add placeholder, and all of them are part of that new defer. The only thing you have to check is that you're not importing that component already in a module, for example. The new way in Angular 17, you not really have that much modules, but for example, if you want to use that defer in a migrated application, you should check that this component get not loaded in a module, because Angular bundling according to modules that are combined, which means if you're importing in the app module another module, it will put all modules inside of one bundle. And everything you don't import directly in a module will be checked by Angular, and if it's realized that this component really can be rendered lazy loaded, you have an own bundle only for that component. And in that example on viewport, which means if this part of the template gets shown in the viewport of the user, Angular will lazy load this component.